Hi guys, welcome back. I'm Tyler. This is my tabletop. Today we're doing something a little different. My copy of A Billion Suns from Osprey Publishing, Osprey Wargames, came in a few days early. I think the actual release date is the 18th. This is from Mike Hutchinson. He wrote Gaslands, which is another favorite of mine. This is space combat. Very much just like Gaslands, if you've ever played it or seen it played. It's very simple in terms of giving you options to customize and make things your own. So what I'm going to be doing today is building one of my large ships, kind of playing it by ear. We are building a carrier. So what we're looking at is I want to do a asteroid. So if you've ever seen Battlestar Galactica, the Galactica and all of the Battlestars, they have these launch bays for their Raptors. And so, like, if you look at the front, like, if this is the front of, so I have my egg, my styrofoam egg. If you look at the front, there's going to be a launch bay on the top and the bottom. And then on the sides, a carrier in A Billion Suns doesn't have any offensive weapons of its own. So I don't need to worry about building guns on it or anything like that. So the side is going to have launch tubes for this. Now this little tiny triangle is a fighter that I 3D printed. It's tiny. It's very tiny. Yes, it is very reminiscent of a Viper, except this is 4-sided instead of 3. But it fits in a drinking straw, just barely. And so that's what I'm going to use as my launch tube. I have drinking straws for my launch tubes, and for the larger, so I want to put a whole big cluster of engines on the back. And so the large engines are going to use straws, and then the smaller engines are going to use this styrene rod, plasticard rod. And then I'll put some gribbly electronic suite type stuff on the front. Alright, so I am switching over to sped up footage with narration in post. So some things changed a little bit. I wound up not using the smaller styrene tubes, just the straws. I wound up not having as much room on the egg as I thought I did. So first thing we're doing is I'm putting some dents into it. It's supposed to be an asteroid after all, so some bigger craters. I'm being a little delicate here because I distinctly remember playing with one of these styrofoam eggs in the past and cracking it by trying to make too many dents. So now the next thing we're going to do is get my directions set up. But we're going to start putting together the really, these are recovery bays, not launch bays, as I had said in my original narration. In my Battlestar Galactica example, this carries over to here. For the raptors, at least. Um, the raptors launch out of tubes on the sides, just like my little fighters, and then they're recovered in the bays, which is uh, what my plan is as well. So, and that's me pointing out that uh, I don't even remember. So I'm gonna actually probably cut away from this once I start uh, trying to dig in. I ran into some trouble with the styrene. Um, yeah, so only the blade is only as wide as like it's really. I tried doing it this way and I fought like I tried just pushing the styrene into the foam and it worked a little bit and then it started curving off and stopped working. So I had to come up with a different solution, but I'm gonna skip way ahead for that. Uh, you guys don't need to see me fighting with it for forever. And after a short burst of 8 times time acceleration, um, I took the camera off the stand and I went on a little adventure to make these steel. Uh, this is sheet steel that I cut to the right sizes to make blades, basically. It's thick enough to where I'm not super worried about cutting myself, but and there I broke it. You can. What I'm trying to do with the egg is a little on the big side. Uh, it's a little large for what I'm trying to do. We make it work, but it is a little finicky, and I break it a few times. And broke off another piece. So the next thing I'm doing is I'm putting some holes for the engines, and then I'm going to make the holes for the launch tubes. Uh, now, I wind up getting 6 of them. Uh, well, 6 to each side. And I've got a drill bit that's the same size as the straws I'm using. And then I've just got a piece of masking tape so that I don't go too terribly deep. So I do 4 to a side, and then I decided that I wanted 6. Yeah. Which, I'll be honest, my fighters are actually a little too big for the straws. But I'm not making them any smaller, and I'm certainly not going to try and find bigger straws. So. And now I'm grabbing some gribbly bits for the electronics array on the front. And oh my goodness, I am actually using Elmer's glue for once. Color me shocked. So I do, I leave everything that I put on it long. I I can trim it all later. I want to be able to actually get my hands on it. Looks kind of goofy while it's sitting there, but looking back on it, obviously I'm recording this after the model is completely finished. It is much. It worked out pretty well. So what you're not going to see on camera, because it took just a frustrating amount of effort. So you can see that I'm starting to try and Elmer's glue the launch bay, not the launch bays, the recovery bays. That did not work. The Elmer's glue didn't hold the way I wanted it to. Super glue really doesn't work, so that wasn't an option. So off camera, I spent quite a bit of time with the hot glue gun. Trying to very carefully, because hot glue also melts styrofoam, get the launch tubes, not launch tubes, the recovery tubes, recovery bays, assembled correctly. You won't really see it. You'll kind of see it. Actually, I think the next section is after I did that, so you'll be able to see the end result. But I got, yeah, so that's me pointing out that I was going to have to stop and let the glue dry before I moved on to the next parts. So yeah, you can see the end result. That is about 45 minutes of fighting with the hot glue gun to get those bays to actually cooperate. So I know it looks a little rough. What I did do after, between this step and painting, was I got some putty out, some air dry clay, and I filled in some gaps and kind of dented it, made it look a bit like concrete, like somebody had tried to make it look kind of blend in. So what I'm pointing out here is that I'm going to go use the Dremel to cut those instead of trying to cut them with the box cutter. Pointing out holes that I'm going to be filling with the clay. And now we're going to jump ahead to the start of the painting process. Okay, so I hand primed it. We're going to be using pewter gray mixed with just a drop of silver. This is, I guess, I mean, it's a stony asteroid, but I figure there's probably a little bit of metal in there somewhere. It has no effect on the end result. You cannot tell. It's complete waste. But anyway, oh, and a little drop of black to darken it a little bit. So the general plan for the painting scheme is I'm going to give it this gray coat, and then I'm going to hit it with a lighter coat above that. And then hit the metallic parts with a metal coat. And I will add some color, some yellow warning hazard striping, and some blue chevrons. I'll explain them when I start painting them. And then I'm going to hit the whole thing with Null Oil and call it done. Null Oil is magic, and it continues to be magic, even though we have switched from bolt action to Billion Suns. So, and this obviously goes quick. I'm not being super careful about, getting full deep coverage because it doesn't matter. Dark recesses is a good thing. And I apologize if you can hear the dogs barking in the background. There's somebody parked like down the street in view of the backyard, and that drives them nuts. And that's... Ta-da! First coat done. Super simple. Alright. Now we're using pewter gray with a drop of nutmeg. And I'm going even faster with this one. It's not quite a dry brush or even a wet dry brush. It's a full coat. I'm just not bothering if I manage to miss a spot or if I miss the depths of some of the pockmarks and stuff. I'll leave that alone. All right. Me pointing out that I'm going to be hitting the metallic sections with the metal once this second coat dries. So I hit the antennas, and that's me prying apart the antennas because they kept getting closer and closer every time every coat of paint kind of attached them together. So I pried them apart a little bit. And then I put some metallics on the launch tubes. There we go. So I'm actually going to go off, and what I'm doing now is I'm running to the other room to find some highlight paints. I was trying to, while I was working, I was trying to determine some color to add to it without kind of breaking away from my general plan. So I decided on some hazard striping on the interior plane of the recovery base. So yeah, you'll see that I do it on the bottom of this one, and then I wind up doing it on the top of the other one. You'll see in a second. So I flip it over. Now all I'm doing is I'm just putting a little stripe of yellow over and over again with some separation. I'm going to do 2 coats of yellow so that it comes in clean, and then I'm going to put black in between the sections. And that'll give it the effect of warning stripes. So my logic, I guess, in universe for this is that the warning stripes tell you which floor the artificial gravity is pulling towards. So if you were to land, you want to make sure that that is at your feet. And now I'm adding the chevrons. And so what this is doing is it's showing the direction of thrust for the carrier, so that if you were a pilot, you would know, hey, it can be thrusting. If it's going to be under main thrust, that's the direction it's going to be going. And I wind up putting the chevrons, and this is me explaining on camera. I wind up putting the chevrons on the bottom too. It just, I can't remember if I did it on camera or not. But yeah, that's old Tyler doing the explanation. Yep, there it is. Put the chevrons on that side too. I wasn't going to do it because the asteroid is still there, but I decided to do it anyway. And this gives the model a little bit of color that wasn't there before without overdoing it. Okay, so now we're putting on the second coat of yellow. I wound up not putting even a second coat on the blue because I actually liked it that way. It looked pretty good with 1 coat. Dogs are going nuts. I apologize if you can hear them again. I would really like to finish my recording before I go yell at them. Alright, so with the second coat of yellow on, we're going to give it a little bit, and then I'm going to put the me getting out the null oil because we're almost there. We are almost at null oil step. So I'm gonna take some black and put it in between the yellow stripes, just to re-emphasize that it's stripy. Now I could have done them on a diagonal to make them look more like warning stripes or hazard stripes, but meh. And flip to hit the underside. That's it for the painting. Mess with the antennas a little bit more, but all that's left to do is hit the whole thing with Nuln Oil. And pretty much the only care that I'm really taking with it is to not overdo it on the color portions, like the chevrons or the hazard marks. It gets a little too heavy on it occasionally, and I have to wipe it off, but this stuff just is amazing. Adds so much depth without a lot of effort. And camera's autofocusing on the back of my hand. And that's gonna finish this up. So, stay tuned for the turntable shot. So, overall, I kind of like how it turned out. I'm looking forward to playing Billion Suns, so that you may be getting some more videos in that regard.